Shapeshifting for Dummies, Human Edition, A Cosmic Survival Guide. Chapter 1. So you want to be a shapeshifter? My name is Taryn Cumanell, and I'm a shapeshifter. I am currently shaped like something friendly, bipedal, and almost human, appearing purely for your comfort. Before we begin, I want you to understand something. Shapeshifting is not a hobby. It is not a party trick. It is not something you dabble in between yoga classes and whatever humans do with those tiny rocks they call crystals. Shapeshifting is a commitment, a lifelong pact between you and the screaming, vibrating cluster of atoms that make up your body. If you're still reading, that means you're either brave, foolish, or bored enough to attempt it. I respect all three. The first time you even think about shifting, your body reacts. Your molecules perk up like startled meerkats. Your bones hum with anticipation. Your skin tingles as if it's trying to decide whether to stay attached. You may feel warm or fizzy or slightly carbonated. Some beginners describe it as butterflies in the stomach, though in one unfortunate case it was actual butterflies. We don't talk about that incident. Your brain, meanwhile, will protest. Brains hate change. They cling to routine like a toddler clings to a sticky piece of candy. As you attempt your first shift, your brain will whisper things like, "This is a terrible idea," or "We were not built for this," or "Please don't turn into a jellyfish again." Ignore it. Brains are cowards. The key to beginning is simple. Meet your molecules. Sit, stand, hover, whatever your species does when it's trying to look introspective, and focus inward. Feel the tiny workers that hold you together. They've been doing their jobs without complaint since the moment you were born. Introduce yourself. Tell them you're planning some changes. They won't like it, but they deserve the courtesy. Once you've made peace with your atoms, you may attempt your first shift. Not a dramatic one. Not wings or tentacles or a second head. Start small. Change the shape of your nose. Shorten your height by an inch. Lengthen a single finger. If it accidentally turns into a carrot, don't panic. That happens to everyone. Just breathe and coax it back. The most important rule of this chapter is restraint. Do not attempt anything impressive. Do not attempt anything cinematic. Do not attempt anything that would make a crowd gasp. You are not ready. Your molecules are not ready. The universe is definitely not ready. But you've taken your first step into a world where your reflection is negotiable, your form is optional, and your body is a suggestion rather than a fact. That's something worth celebrating. Carefully, and preferably not by turning into something flammable. Chapter 2. Stretching, Squeezing, and Other Beginner-Level Body Crimes. If Chapter 1 was about meeting your molecules, Chapter 2 is about convincing them to do things they were never designed for. This is where you learn the fundamentals. Stretching, squeezing, and shifting your colors without accidentally broadcasting your emotional state to everyone in the room. Stretching is the easiest to learn and the hardest to do gracefully. When you stretch a limb, it feels like your bones have turned into warm taffy. Your skin follows reluctantly, like a child being dragged to school. The first time you elongate your arm, you'll feel a strange rubber band sensation, as if your body is trying to snap back into place but hasn't yet decided whether it should. Beginners often giggle uncontrollably during this phase, which is adorable until someone stretches their neck too far and gets lightheaded from the altitude change. Squeezing, on the other hand, is an art of compression. It requires you to relax your structure and imagine yourself as soft clay. Your ribs will protest. Your organs will shuffle around like passengers on a crowded shuttle. If you hear a creaking sound, that's your dignity bending under pressure. The goal is not to flatten yourself into a pancake, that comes much later if you survive, but to compact your form just enough to slip under a door or fit into a cramped hiding spot. Do not, under any circumstances, squish your skull more than necessary. The brain does not appreciate being folded. Color shifting is where beginners get cocky. Changing your skin tone feels like adjusting the lighting in a room. Subtle, warm, almost pleasant. but your emotions will betray you. Anger may flush you red. Embarrassment may turn you pink. Terror may render you transparent, which is deeply inconvenient in social situations. And if you accidentally turn rainbow, it means you're overwhelmed, or hungry, or both. The one rule I insist upon, the rule I will shout, repeat, and tattoo onto your forehead if necessary, is this: do not attempt to grow extra limbs. Not yet. Not now. Not in this chapter. Your body will give you the limbs, yes, but they will not listen to you. They will act on instinct. They will flail. They will grab things. They will slap someone. Usually me. If you can stretch without snapping, squish without imploding, and shift colors without turning plaid, which is illegal in 12 systems for aesthetic reasons, then you are ready to move on. But if you find yourself accidentally elongating your spine, melting into a polite puddle, or turning your hand into something that wiggles independently of your will, congratulations, you're learning, and you're still alive, which means you're ready for Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Animals, objects, and other terrible ideas you're going to try anyway. There comes a point in every beginner's journey when the simple pleasures of stretching your limbs like warm taffy or squishing yourself into a compact travel-size version no longer satisfy the itch. You start to look at the world differently. A bird flits past and you think, I could be that. A cat lounges on a windowsill and you think, I could be smug like that. A chair sits innocently in the corner and you think, I could absolutely be sat on by strangers. This is the moment I dread, because this is the moment you begin trying to become things that are not you. And that, dear morphling, is where the universe starts sharpening its teeth. The first time you shift into an animal, it feels like slipping into someone else's dream. Your bones rearrange with a soft, eager crackle. Your senses bloom outward. Your instincts, the instincts, surge up like a tidal wave that has no interest in your personal goals or dignity. I remember my first time. I chose something simple, something harmless, something I thought I could control, a raccoon. I wanted stealth, agility, the ability to infiltrate a trash-based culture without drawing attention. Instead, I woke up 6 hours later wearing a crown made of bottle caps, surrounded by raccoons chanting my name. I still don't know what I promised them. That's the danger. You don't just borrow the shape. You borrow the urges, the impulses, the primal nonsense that drives every creature in the galaxy. Turn into a wolf, and you'll feel the moon tugging at your ribs like a magnet. Turn into a bird, and you'll be overwhelmed by the sudden burning desire to poop on statues. Turn into a squirrel, and you will, without hesitation, challenge the gods themselves. I've seen it happen. It never ends peacefully. Then there are the students who decide animals are too messy and instead attempt the cleaner art of object shifting. They imagine it will be dignified, elegant, a clever way to hide in plain sight. It never is. Becoming an object is like locking yourself inside your own body and throwing away the key. You can't move. You can't speak. You can't blink. You can only sit there, helpless, while the universe interacts with you in the most disrespectful ways imaginable. I once turned into a sofa to spy on a diplomat. A simple assignment, a quick in and out. I thought I'd be clever, subtle, unnoticed. Instead, I spent 3 hours being sat on by a man who consumed nothing but fermented root stew. I could feel every vibration, every shift of weight, every digestive threat. When I finally shifted back, I had upholstery patterns imprinted on my soul. Students always ask, what about becoming a lamp, or a table, or a coat rack? And I tell them the truth. If you become a lamp, someone will flick you on and off until you question your will to live. If you become a table, someone will put something sticky on you. If you become a coat rack, someone will hang a damp jacket on your face. There is no dignity in objecthood, only suffering. But nothing compares to the chaos unleashed when a beginner decides to impersonate another person. You think it's harmless, a prank, a shortcut, a clever disguise. But the moment you slip into someone else's skin, you inherit their entire life, their relationships, their responsibilities, their unresolved emotional baggage. I once watched a student impersonate their roommate for 5 minutes. In that time, they were hugged by a stranger, handed a crying baby, asked to explain a mysterious debt, and kissed by someone who definitely should have asked more questions. Humans are unpredictable. Their lives are tangled webs of obligations and secrets. If you step into their shape, you step into all of it. And trust me, you are not ready. There's another complication beginners never consider. Your body has opinions. When you shift into something else, your instincts may override your intentions. As a wolf, you may howl at the worst possible moment. As a bird, you may attempt to fly indoors and immediately regret it. As a ferret, you may steal shiny objects and hide them in vents, only to rediscover them months later and wonder why you did that. Even objects have instinct-adjacent reactions. A student once turned into a table and spent the entire time screaming internally because someone placed a hot mug on them without a coaster. Your form shapes your mind shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes the disaster that follows. If you insist on trying an animal form, start small. Something slow, something gentle, something unlikely to cause property damage or existential crises. A goldfish, perhaps. A snail. A sloth. Shift for 10 seconds, no more. Then shift back before your brain decides it prefers the simple life and refuses to return. If you accidentally become a squirrel, run. Don't think, don't hesitate, just run. The instincts will take over, and I cannot save you. This chapter marks your first real step into the dangerous, exhilarating world of becoming things you were never meant to be. It is thrilling. It is intoxicating. It is catastrophically stupid. But you will do it anyway, and I will be here, guiding you, sighing loudly, and occasionally prying you out of a tree. Chapter 4. Catastrophic Mistakes and How to Pretend. You meant to do that. There is a moment in every shapeshifter's life, usually early, usually loud, when something goes wrong. Not a small wrong, like turning your finger into a carrot or accidentally giving yourself a second elbow. No, I'm talking about the kind of wrong that makes bystanders gasp, makes small children cry, and makes you reconsider every decision that led you to this moment. This chapter is about those moments, the disasters, the catastrophes, the oh no, oh no, oh no phase of your education. If you haven't experienced one yet, don't worry, you will. And when you do, you'll hear my voice in your head saying, "I told you so." Partial transformations are the most common beginner disaster. They happen when your body commits to the idea of shifting, but your brain hesitates, like a nervous actor forgetting their lines on stage. The result is unfortunate. I once watched a student attempt to turn into a tiger. They got the face right, whiskers, stripes, fangs, the whole majestic package. But the rest of their body remained stubbornly human. The effect was less fearsome predator and more nightmare mascot who haunts abandoned malls. They tried to roar. It came out as a confused yodel. Partial transformations are not dangerous, but they are humiliating. The key is to breathe, focus, and coax the rest of your body to catch up. Do not panic. Do not run. And absolutely do not look into a mirror unless you want to traumatize yourself. Getting stuck in a form is the second most common disaster and the one that causes the most screaming. Your body is adaptable. Too adaptable. If you stay in a form long enough, your molecules begin to think, "Oh, this is who we are now," and they settle in like stubborn old tenants who refuse to move out. I once spent 6 months as a lamp. 6 months. Do you know what it's like to be turned on and off by clapping? To be dusted? To be placed in a corner because you don't match the decor? I do. And I still twitch when I hear applause. If you feel yourself getting too comfortable in a form, if your thoughts start to slow or your instincts begin to shift, change back immediately. Do not wait. Do not finish what you're doing. Do not say, just one more minute. That is how lamps happen. Your form responds to your emotions whether you want it to or not. This is adorable in children and catastrophic in adults. Anger may cause you to sprout spikes. Embarrassment may cause you to melt into a small, apologetic puddle. Fear may cause you to shrink until you resemble a trembling cube. Romantic attraction may cause your skin to shimmer like a disco ball, which is not subtle and never will be. I once taught a student who turned bright neon yellow every time they lied. They tried to deny it. They glowed brighter. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your form. Meditation helps. Deep breathing helps. Avoiding stressful situations helps. Though if you're a beginner shapeshifter, everything is a stressful situation. This one is rare, but when it happens, it is spectacular. If you are mid-shift and you touch someone, skin to skin or tentacle to skin, or whatever appendage you're currently sporting, your body may accidentally copy their genetic template. This does not mean you become them. It means you can become them, whether you want to or not. I once brushed against a politician during a transformation. For the next 3 weeks, every time I sneezed, I turned into them. It was horrifying. For me, for them, for everyone. If you absorb someone's DNA, don't panic. It fades with time, usually, unless the person is radioactive, or contagious, or a politician. In that case, panic a little. Sometimes your body improvises. You attempt to grow wings and instead grow decorative frills. You try to sprout claws and end up with hooves. You attempt to shift your eyes and accidentally give yourself 8 of them. Your body is creative, too creative. It wants to help, but it has the artistic instincts of a toddler with finger paint. If you grow something unexpected, don't yank it off. That only makes things worse. Calm yourself. Focus. Gently persuade your body to return to factory settings. Unless you like the new feature. In that case, keep it. I once had gills for a month. It was refreshing. You will make mistakes. You will embarrass yourself. You will terrify strangers, confuse friends, and possibly traumatize a small animal or two. This is normal. Shapeshifting is not about perfection. It is about adaptation, resilience, the ability to look at your reflection, even when it has too many eyes, and say, I can fix this. In Chapter 5, we'll discuss mastery, mischief, and the ethics of not becoming a menace to society. Bonus instruction. The day. Everyone's feelings. Became visible. Filed under. I told them to meditate, they laughed, and now we all suffer. I should have known the moment I walked into the classroom that something was wrong. The air felt charged, like the room itself was holding its breath. 20 students sat in a semicircle, each one trying very hard to look calm, which is always a sign that they are not. All right, I said, clapping my hands. Today we're practicing emotional regulation during transformation. That means no panic shifting, no mood melting, and absolutely no... A student in the front row burst into flames. Not real flames. Emotional flames. Bright, flickering, harmless but dramatic enough to make the rest of the class scream and scatter like startled pigeons. The flaming student waved their hands frantically. I'm not even mad. I'm just mildly stressed. Yes, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. That's how it starts. Before I could intervene, another student, a nervous one who always looked like they were expecting a pop quiz, began shrinking. Slowly at first, then rapidly, until they were a trembling cube the size of a lunchbox. I don't like this, the cube squeaked. You're doing great, I lied. Then the real disaster began. A third student, overwhelmed by the chaos, turned transparent. Not invisible, transparent. I could see their organs. Their organs could see me. We both regretted it. Deep breaths, I said, backing away. Slow, steady. A fourth student gasped, clutched their chest, and exploded into glitter, sentient glitter. The sparkling cloud drifted upward, humming anxiously. I don't know how to stop. You're fine, I said. Just try not to inhale yourself. The rest of the class was now in full emotional meltdown. One student sprouted spikes every time someone spoke too loudly. Another melted into a puddle of embarrassment and tried to ooze under the door. A third turned neon pink, then neon green, then neon plaid, which is illegal in 12 systems, but I decided not to mention that while they were panicking. And then, of course, someone cried. Not a normal cry, a shapeshifter cry. Their tears hit the floor and immediately sprouted legs. Tiny legs. Dozens of them. The tears scurried across the room like emotional cockroaches. The class screamed again. I clapped my hands sharply. "Everyone stop!" To my surprise, they did. The flaming student dimmed. The cube student expanded back into a person. The transparent student regained opacity. The glitter cloud drifted down and recoalesced into a vaguely humanoid shape. The tear creatures froze mid-scuttle, confused by the sudden silence. I surveyed the room, hands on my hips. "This," I said, "is why we meditate." The class stared at me, exhausted, traumatized, and slightly sparkly. I sighed and gestured toward the tear creatures. "Someone please sweep those up before they unionize." Chapter 5. Mastery, Mischief, and the Ethics of Not Becoming a Menace. By the time you reach this chapter, you've stretched yourself into noodle shapes, squished yourself into travel-size versions, turned into at least one animal you immediately regretted, and possibly spent a short but meaningful period as furniture. You've melted, glowed, sprouted spikes, and maybe absorbed someone's DNA by accident. You've survived. That means you're ready for the final lesson. Not the lesson of how to shapeshift. You've already proven you can do that, disastrously or otherwise, but the lesson of what shapeshifting is for. Because once you master your form, once your molecules obey you without complaint, once your instincts no longer hijack your brain, you become powerful. And power, as every species eventually learns, is a fork in the road. One path leads to responsibility. The other leads to chaos. Both are fun, but only one keeps you out of prison. Let's talk about both. True mastery is not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's not the kind of thing you show off at parties unless you want to be asked to perform tricks like a cosmic golden retriever. Mastery is subtle. It's the ability to shift without thinking, to adjust your height by an inch to reach a shelf, to thicken your skin against the cold, to sharpen your senses when danger whispers. It's the quiet confidence of knowing your body is no longer a cage, but a toolkit. When you reach this level, your transformations become smooth, seamless, almost elegant. You no longer wobble or twitch or accidentally sprout decorative frills. You no longer panic shift into a puddle when someone compliments your hair. You no longer glow neon when you lie. You become steady. And that steadiness is what separates a shapeshifter from a shapeshifting disaster. The mischief phase. You will enter this, don't lie. Once you gain control, the temptation to use your abilities for mischief becomes overwhelming. Every shapeshifter goes through this phase. Every single one. You will impersonate someone you shouldn't. You will sneak into a place you shouldn't. You will turn into something ridiculous purely because you can. I once spent an entire afternoon as a decorative fountain because I wanted to listen in on a council meeting. I was majestic. I was serene. I was also full of koi fish by the end of it. Mischief is natural. Mischief is healthy. Mischief is how you learn the limits of your abilities. But mischief has rules. If your prank causes property damage, emotional trauma, or a small riot, it is no longer mischief. It is a crime. And while I admire creativity, I do not admire bail hearings. The ethics of not being a menace. Here is the truth most shapeshifters don't want to hear. Just because you can become a 40-foot gelatinous horror does not mean you should. Yes, it's impressive. Yes, it's dramatic. Yes, it will make small children scream and adults reconsider their life choices. But shapeshifting is not a weapon. It is not a shortcut. It is not a way to avoid accountability, responsibility, or awkward conversations. If you impersonate someone, you risk destroying their life. If you turn into an animal, you risk losing yourself in the instincts. If you turn into an object, you risk being used in ways you will never emotionally recover from. Ethics matter. Not because the universe demands it, but because shapeshifters without ethics become stories parents tell their children to make them behave. You don't want to be a bedtime warning, trust me. The final lesson. Shapeshifting is not about becoming something else. It's about understanding what you already are. Your form is fluid, yes, but your identity is not. Your choices shape you more than your molecules ever will. You can be a hero, a menace, a trickster, a guardian, a disaster, or all of the above depending on the day. But whatever you become, be intentional. Shift with purpose. Shift with awareness. Shift with the understanding that every form carries consequences. And if you ever find yourself stuck as a houseplant again, remember, sunlight helps, but so does humility. Epilogue. The last shift. There comes a moment, quiet, unremarkable, almost shy, when a shapeshifter realizes they no longer need to prove anything, not to their teachers, not to their peers, not even to themselves. It happens unexpectedly. One day you're stretching your limbs just to see how far they'll go, or melting into a puddle because someone startled you, or turning into a squirrel because your instincts staged a coup. And then, without fanfare, you shift into something simple, a slightly taller version of yourself, a calmer version, a version with shoulders that sit a little more comfortably, and you realize, this is enough. Mastery isn't the moment you can become anything. It's the moment you choose what not to become. I remember the first time I felt it. I was standing on a balcony overlooking a nebula that shimmered like spilled paint across the void. I'd spent the entire day teaching beginners how not to explode, how not to sprout unnecessary limbs, how not to impersonate their roommates during tax season. I was exhausted. My molecules were exhausted. Even my instincts were exhausted. So I shifted. Not into a bird, or a wolf, or a sofa, or a decorative fountain. Just me. A version of me that felt honest. And for the first time in centuries, I didn't feel the urge to change. You'll reach that moment too, maybe sooner than you think, maybe later than you'd prefer. But it will come. The day when your form is no longer a battlefield, no longer a playground, no longer a cosmic experiment gone wrong, it will simply be home. And when that happens, you'll understand what shapeshifting was always meant to teach you. That identity is not a shape. It's a choice. You can be chaos, you can be elegance, you can be a disaster wrapped in ambition, you can be a masterpiece held together by stubbornness and caffeine, you can be anything. But the most powerful thing you can ever be is yourself, on purpose. So go, morphling. Shift wisely. Shift boldly. Shift with the knowledge that your body is yours to command. Your instincts are yours to tame. And your story, whatever shape it takes, is entirely your own. And if you ever find yourself stuck as a houseplant again, you know where to find me. I'll bring the watering can. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.